All right, Habibi gang, welcome back. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our deep dives.
Yeah.
You know, we love breaking these matches down for you. And speaking of which, let's jump right into it. Boxing Day thriller. At the City Ground, Nottingham Forest taking on Tottenham. You could barely see through the fog, but one thing was crystal clear by the final whistle.
Oh, yeah.
Forest are the real deal.
They absolutely are.
A 1-0 win. Might not sound like a demolition, but this puts Forest in third place in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Let that sink in for a second, Habibi Gam, because last season they were fighting just to stay in the division.
And a lot of pundits, myself included, thought they'd struggle again this year. But something's different, and it all points back to Nuno Espírito Santo. Ironic, isn't it? A former Tottenham manager is the one now masterminding their downfall.
Oh, the irony is not lost on anyone. I mean, it has shades of Brian Clough, doesn't it?
Oh.
Same points tally at this stage of the season as back in 87, 88 when Clough was leading them glory. But it's not just the league position.
Right.
It's the way they're playing. This isn't luck. This is a system.
It's a system built on a foundation of rock-solid defense.
No.
Best clean sheet record in the league, Habibi gang.
Wow.
That's not just about individual players. That's tactical discipline drilled in by Nuno.
And then when they go forward, they're lethal case in point, that Anthony Elanga goal.
Oh, yeah.
The kid's on fire, his third in 3 games now.
That goal, though, it's more than just Elanga's finish, which was clinical, no doubt. It's the build-up, that rapid counterattack that Nuno has clearly been working on. You see Morgan Gibbs White, the vision to pick out that pass and the pace to make it happen. Maybe a future England star there.
He's certainly got the talent. But you're right. This isn't a one-man show. Everything about that goal was textbook Forest, under Nuno, disciplined at the back, explosive going forward. Which brings us to the other side of the coin. Tottenham, 2 wins in 9 games, and now this defeat, not the festive cheer their fans were hoping for.
They're in a rough patch, no doubt about it. That hammer in by Liverpool clearly shook them, and the injuries are piling up.
Yeah.
Look at their back line.
Right.
They're missing key players, and it showed.
And to make matters worse, that red card for Djed Spence, a former Forest player, add an insult to injury.
Oof.
Postecoglou's got a real puzzle to solve here.
He's got limited options right now, and January can't come soon enough. They need reinforcements, and they need to figure out how to rediscover that spark they had earlier in the season. But look even beyond the stats. You watch that match, and you see the difference in the 2 teams. The City Ground was buzzing that connection between the team, the manager, the fans.
Oh, yeah.
It's palpable.
Nuno himself has talked about the belief there, but what's impressive is he's not getting carried away.
Right.
He keeps saying it's about the process, about taking it 1 game at a time.
Which is exactly the right approach. It's a long season. Anything can happen. But you can't deny there's something special brewing at Forest right now.
Okay, let's go back to that Elanga goal for a moment.
Yeah.
It feels like that one play sums up the entire match.
It really does, because it wasn't just about Forest being clinical on the break. It was Tottenham's vulnerability that was exposed.
What do you mean by that?
Well, think about how the goal started. Forest were comfortable defending in their own half, almost inviting Tottenham to press high, then boom, 1 turnover and they're off to the races. Was that part of Nuno's plan to lure Tottenham into a trap?
Interesting point. It looked like Forest were daring Tottenham to overcommit, knowing they had the pace to punish them on the counter. It's a risky strategy.
Yeah.
But it paid off brilliantly in this case.
And it speaks to the confidence Nuno has instilled in his players. They're not just reacting, they're dictating the flow of the game even when they're without the ball.
That patience, that discipline, it's reminiscent of some of the great counterattacking teams we've seen over the years.
Absolutely. And the way Gibbs White drove forward with purpose, the weight of his pass to Elanga, it was all perfectly executed.
Elanga didn't even break stride. He just slotted it past Forster with ease, textbook counterattack in football. And it wasn't a fluke. This is how Forest have been playing all season. They're organized, they're patient, and they're deadly on the break.
Which begs the question, is Tottenham's style of play under Postecoglou, that high-pressing, possession-based approach, is it vulnerable to this kind of counterattack? We saw hints of it in the Liverpool defeat and now again here.
That's a great point. It seems like teams are starting to figure out how to exploit the space left behind when Tottenham push forward. And if they're missing key defenders, it's even harder to recover when those counterattacks happen.
Exactly. It puts a lot of pressure on their midfield to track back and cover. And if they're not disciplined, it can be a recipe for disaster.
Speaking of Tottenham's struggles, let's dig a little deeper into what went wrong for them in this match, beyond just the red card and the injuries.
Well, for starters, they were missing a lot of creativity in midfield. Without Son and Kulusevski, they lacked the spark and penetration to break down Forest's organized defense.
They had a lot of possession, but they didn't do enough with it.
They were too predictable, too slow in their build-up play. Forest were able to read them like a book and shut them down effectively.
And when they did manage to get into dangerous areas, they lacked the quality in the final third to make it count. Kane was isolated up front and starved of service.
He's a world-class striker, but even he can't do it all on his own. He needs support. He needs players around him who can create chances and get him involved in the game.
Postecoglou has a lot to think about over the next few weeks. He needs to find a way to get his team firing again, and he needs to do it quickly.
The January transfer window will be crucial for them. They need to strengthen the squad, especially in defense and midfield, if they want to turn things around.
But let's get back to Forest for a moment. This performance against Tottenham was impressive. But can they maintain this form? Can they really challenge for a European spot?
It's still early days, but they've certainly made a strong case for themselves. They're playing attractive, effective football, and they're getting results.
They're defying expectations and proving that they belong among the elite.
And with Nuno at the helm, anything is possible. He's built a team that's greater than the sum of its parts. They work hard for each other, they're disciplined, and they have a clear game plan. They can defend deep and absorb pressure, but they can also attack with pace and purpose. When the opportunity arises, it's a win-in formula. And they're proven that it can be successful against some of the best teams in the league. You know what's fascinating here is how this match really exposed the contrast in styles between these two managers. You've got Nuno, who's all about that discipline, organization, almost a chess-like pragmatism to how he sets up Forest. And then there's Postecoglou, who wants that free-flowing attack in football, almost like watching a swarm of bees buzzing around the goal.
And this time it felt like Nuno's well-drilled wasps stung Tottenham right where it hurt.
Yeah.
But you're right, it's a clash of philosophies. Tottenham wants the ball, they want to dictate the tempo.
Yeah.
But Forest, they were happy to let him have it to a point.
Exactly. They were like a coiled spring.
Yeah.
Tottenham had possession, but Forest was so well organized defensively that they could barely create a clear chance.
Right.
It was almost like watching a python slowly squeezing the life out of its prey.
Habibi gang, if you enjoy a good tactical battle, this was the match for you. You could see each manager trying to outmaneuver the other.
Yeah.
But that moment when Forest wins the ball back, the transition is lightning fast. Tottenham just couldn't handle that sudden shifting gears.
And that's where Nuno's system shines, and where players like Gibbs-White and Elanga become so dangerous. They're not just fast, they're intelligent runners. They know exactly when to make that burst forward, how to exploit the space that Tottenham's high line leaves behind.
It feels like Nuno has built this team specifically to punish teams that try to overcommit going forward, like he studied the Premier League, seen this trend of high pressing and said, all right, let's use that against them.
And it's working. You see it not just in the goals they score, but in the chances they create. Think about Awoni up front. He might not have gotten on the score sheet this time, but he was a constant menace, dragging defenders out of position, creating those pockets of space for runners like Elanga to exploit.
He's like a battering ram wearing down the defense, making it easier for those quicker players to come in and deliver the knockout blow. It's a classic 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
But it all starts with that defensive foundation. You can't counterattack effectively if you're constantly scrambling in your own box.
Absolutely, and that's where you see the impact of Nuno's coaching. It's that attention to detail, that discipline that makes this Forest team so difficult to break down. It's not just about individual brilliance. It's about the collective effort, the understanding of each player's role within the system.
Let's talk about individual brilliance, though, because that Elanga goal, that was the thing of beauty, but it was more than just the finish, wasn't it? It was that pinpoint pass from Gibbs-White, that vision, that ability to see the play unfold before anyone else.
Gibbs-White is the heartbeat of this Forest team. He's the one who makes them tick. He's got the ability to unlock defenses with his passing, and he's also a real threat in front of goal himself. And it's not just his technical skills, it's his decision-making always seems to make the right pass at the right time.
He's 24 years old, and you can just see him growing in confidence. With every match you mentioned England earlier, honestly. On this form, why not? He's got the talent. He's playing in a system that suits him perfectly, and he's delivering in the big moments.
And then you've got Elanga, 21 years old already, with 3 goals in 3 games. That's not just luck. That's a player who's hungry, who's playing with no fear. He's got that electric pace, that raw talent, and now he's starting to refine his finishing his movement off the ball.
Forest have got themselves a real gem there. And it's not just those two. There's quality. Throughout the squad, they've got experience at the back, solidity in midfield, and a genuine threat going forward.
Yeah.
It's a balanced team, a team that's built to compete.
But let's flip the script for a moment, Habibi gang. Let's talk about Tottenham, what went wrong for them in this match. Beyond the obvious, beyond the injuries, beyond the red card. Was there something deeper at play?
Well, one thing that struck me was their lack of creativity in midfield. Yes, they were missing Son and Kulusevski, two key players.
Right.
But even with them, I wonder if that system, that reliance on possession, is becoming predictable.
That's a great question, and I think you're on to something. Tottenham had a lot of the ball, but it was almost sterile possession. They were moving it side to side, but not really penetrating, not really creating those clear-cut chances that we've come to expect from them.
And it felt like they were relying too heavily on individual brilliance.
Yes.
They were hoping for Kane to conjure something up out of nothing or for someone to pull off a moment of magic. But Forest were too disciplined, too organized to allow that to happen. They shut down the passing lanes, they doubled up on Kane, and they didn't give Tottenham any space to breathe.
And that's the thing about Nuno's system. It's so adaptable. They can defend deep and absorb pressure, but they can also press high and force turnovers when the opportunity arises. They're not just sitting back and hoping for the best. They're actively trying to disrupt their opponent's rhythm and dictate the tempo of the game.
It's a testament to Nuno's coaching, no doubt. But it also raises a question about Tottenham's approach. Are they becoming too predictable? Are teams starting to figure out how to neutralize their attack? And if so, what adjustments does Postecoglou need to make?
These are big questions, and ones that Postecoglou will need to address if Tottenham wants to get back on track. They've got a talented squad, there's no doubt about that. But talent alone isn't enough.
Yeah.
They need to find a way to be more unpredictable, more adaptable, more resilient, especially when they're facing teams like Forest, who are so well drilled and so dangerous on the counterattack.
We've talked about the tactics, the individual performances, and the contrast in styles of the two managers. But let's not forget about the atmosphere at the City Ground. It was electric.
Absolutely. The Forest fans were incredible. They created a cauldron of noise that really spurred their team on. You could feel the energy, the passion, the belief.
You could tell this win meant something special to them. It wasn't just about the 3 points. It was about proving that Forest are back, that they belong among the elite.
And it was a reminder of the magic of football, those moments when a team and its fans come together as one, when anything feels possible.
This is what makes football so compelling. The upsets, the underdogs, the stories that unfold on the pitch, and Forest are writing a pretty incredible story right now.
They are indeed, and I think it's just the beginning. You know, Habibi gang, this match, it really feels like a turning point for both of these clubs. For Forest, it's a validation of everything they've been building towards, but for Tottenham, it's a bit of a wake-up call.
You're absolutely right. It's like a fork in the road. Forest are on this upward trajectory full of confidence and momentum, while Tottenham, they're at a crossroads trying to figure out their next move.
Let's talk about Tottenham first, because this defeat, coupled with the Liverpool loss, it's exposed some cracks in that high-press and possession-based system that Postecoglou favors, and the January transfer window can't come soon enough for them.
They need reinforcements, especially at the back. Those missing defenders really hurt them against Forest, but it's not just about personnel.
Right.
It's about finding the right balance, the right blend of players to execute that system effectively.
And maybe even tweaking the system itself. We saw glimpses of its vulnerability against Liverpool's counterattacking, and Forest exploited those same weaknesses even further. It's almost like teams have figured out the blueprint for how to disrupt Tottenham's flow, how to turn that high press against them.
So what do? Do they stick to their guns and try to refine what they're already doing? Or do they adapt and maybe become a bit more pragmatic, a bit more cautious in their approach?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer might depend on who they can bring in during the transfer window. If they can find a couple of solid defenders who can cover ground and read the game, well, maybe they can afford to keep playing that high line, keep pressing high up the pitch. But if they can't, they might need to adjust their tactics, maybe drop a bit deeper, be a bit more compact defensively.
It's a tough balancing act because you don't want to abandon the principles that have made Tottenham successful in the past, but at the same time, you can't be stubborn. You have to be willing to adapt to the challenges you're facing.
And that's where Postecoglou's man management skills will be crucial. He needs to keep the players believing in what they're doing, keep them motivated, even when the results aren't going their way. He needs to rally the troops and make sure everyone is pulling in the same direction.
Now let's shift our focus back to Nottingham Forest, because this win, it's more than just 3 points. It's a statement, it's a declaration that they're not just here to make up the numbers.
They are absolutely contenders, and I think what's most impressive is that they're doing it with a sense of purpose, a clear identity. They're not just grinding out results or playing attractive attacking football, but with a solid defensive base. It's a formula that's working wonders.
And a lot of credit has to go to Nuno Espírito Santo He's taken a team that was fighting relegation last season and turned them into a force to be reckoned with.
He's instilled a belief, a winning mentality. He's got them playing with confidence, discipline, and a real hunger to succeed, and they're doing it with a blend of youth and experience, which is a great sign for the future.
So what's next for Forest? Can they sustain this incredible run? Can they really push for a European spot?
I wouldn't bet against them. They've got a favorable run of fixtures coming up, and with the way they're playing, they're capable of beating anyone on their day.
They've got that momentum, that swagger.
Yeah.
And most importantly, they've got that belief. They believe in themselves, they believe in their manager, and they believe in what they're trying to achieve.
And that Habibi gang is a dangerous combination. So keep an eye on Nottingham Forest. They're a team on a mission, and they might just surprise a few people along the way.